Once again, we are back with another powerful testimony of another Muslim who has left Islam for the sake of Christianity. The exodus of Muslims out of Islam is a true event, is a true phenomenon in our time. The winds of internet have blown in the house of Islam, and the house cannot withstand. People are questioning this religion, questioning its sources, questioning the self-diagnosed prophet of Islam, and as a result are walking away and forsaking their father's religion. To to know this is an actual thing. I am an ex-Muslim myself, and that's my book called Forsaking My Father's Religion. The book is available on our website for free. If you go to iranchristians.org, or if you're from Texas, iranchristians.org, you can order this book absolutely free of charge. It's in 13 different languages. You can get it electronically or a hard copy. Both is going to be a gift from us to you. I have my sister Bella today with me, that she's going to share her powerful testimony with us. And sister, thank you for accepting my invitation to be on this show. We're grateful. Please tell us, what is your story?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Good morning. My story, my life before Islam makes no sense. It was very chaotic, and I'm going to try my best to make sense of it. So, I know there are a lot of Muslims that became Christian, but all of them weren't a part of an Islamic cult. My background is I was born into an Islamic cult in Coldwater, Michigan. So, so I was born into this religion where my father had about 73 acres of land. It's still, I think it's in his name and my uncle's name. They still have it. So there was a Pakistani sheikh who founded this Islamic cult. It still exists. They have cults in New York, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. But the one my father chose to live on was in Michigan. So on this property, it was basically like a trailer park. Um, Only Muslims were allowed to live there. The girls weren't allowed to go to public school. The boys could. We weren't allowed to. Some women were allowed to drive, but it was very looked down upon. So growing up, I didn't think I never saw myself driving. The first time I actually sat in the driver's seat, I was 21, and it felt so weird. And I'm American. So, the women weren't allowed to swim. My marriage was arranged. I'm just trying to briefly give you an idea of, TV wasn't allowed. TV was inconsistent. It was back and forth. We could watch some movies, sometimes TV shows. I remember we were like allowed to watch the Cosby Show sometimes. But so what happened? I'm sorry. I didn't think I was going to be nervous because I make my own little YouTube videos now, and now I'm nervous.
Yes, let me ask a quick question, because as soon as you tell things, questions pop in my mind. So this Pakistani sheikh
Yes.
found this. Islam is occult by itself. So he found another cult within a cult, and there is this big acreage of land in somewhere in Michigan. He turns it to his Sharia zone um, compound, and people are coming to him. Tell us about the environment. Yes, people, women cannot drive, swim, or any of these things. So tell us a little more about the compound. I'm very, very interested.
Okay, I could tell you how it started briefly because I am long-winded and I don't get a chance to talk to people about this, so I'm going to try to narrow it down though. So the Pakistani sheikh, he was a full-time scammer. It started off in New York. That's where my parents actually found him. In New York, he was speaking at a mosque, and my father and one of the other elders from the community, they went to the mosque to hear him speak. They were finished when he was finished speaking, they were crying and they went up to him and they were like, "We never heard these beautiful words before. Tell us about your religion." So the sheikh he immediately knew they were suckers, right? So he goes, "Oh my goodness, you guys understood what I was saying?" And they were like, "Yeah, we understood." And he's like, "Because I gave my entire sermon in Urdu. So you guys are the chosen ones. You're the believers because God gave you the gift of understanding." So he started off scamming them from the beginning. Um, So he encouraged my father and uncle to establish the property in Michigan. So that's where I was born. And this was in the 70s, I believe. So I wasn't even born when it happened. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the snake uh, oil salesman from Pakistan has arrived to New York and carries his baggage of Islam with him. And then instead of going to work, let's use religion and occult to scam naive American.
Yeah.
So he starts saying that, well, my sermon was in Urdu and you have the gift of interpretation. And your parents now are, wow, we are gifted, we are chosen by Allah. Let's get into this. So they
Yeah.
start this, they move from New York to Michigan. Is that what happens?
Yes, they moved from New York to Michigan. We moved several times. We were in Michigan for 14 years, and then he's like, "We need to establish." The sheikh was like, "We need a bigger community. We need to, build one in South Carolina." So there was a lot of moving throughout my life, before and after Christianity, because it was like in my DNA to move, but it is weird. My story is, you'll see. So this sheikh convinced my family and all the other families in the cult that he somehow he convinced them that he was like God speaks through him and that we were the chosen ones. Everybody else was doomed to hell except for our community. He convinced them to give up 10% of every check, like every working man had to give up 10%. By the time that I left, everyone was giving up 30% of their checks. And so I'm pretty sure it's probably up by 50% now. So yeah, but he convinced them. I mean, he had such control and such power over these people that even, by the way, he passed away a few years ago.
What was his
And
name?
Sheikh Jelani, Sheikh Jelani, he passed away a few years ago, but a few years before that, he was banned from coming back to America because he's on the terrorist watch list. Wonder why? And so, so we would watch these in the 90s. We would watch him on VHS. He would record these tapes in Pakistan and send them over, and we would like study him. And I remember my parents saying, like, after every prayer, we had to put the tape in. Eventually, it became DVDs. We had to listen to Sheikh Jelani because he was going to guide us like to paradise. This man had so much control over my parents and the other everybody in the cult. He could tell you to divorce your wife and that someone else needs to marry her. He would break up families. He would arrange marriages. The cult that he established in Colorado. That's when it was before I was born. My sister was only 12, but he arranged a marriage between her and a man in his 40s, which, by the way, the man is still in prison right now because of that and just these other terrorist weird things. But he arranged a marriage between them because, Muslims can have four wives, but the 40-year-old man's wife couldn't have children. So they're like, he needs a young wife. He needs someone young. So my mom was like, oh, I have a 12-year-old. And she volunteered my sister to marry him. And usually if I tell this story, I get teary-eyed, but I made sure I done, what's it? I had a lot of like therapy and I do prayers and meditation so I can even talk about this stuff. So yeah, so she had her arranged marriage at 12 and she had seven kids by him. Seven kids. So my nieces and nephews are older than I am because she was 12 and I was like little. I'm not sure if I was born or I was really
So,
little, but
tell me about the rituals. Tell me about when you guys gathered. What was the rituals about? The prayers about? Did you guys fast? I want to know about those things.
okay, yeah, we did. We fasted every Ramadan. I started fasting at 7 because in Islam it says if your child doesn't fast at 7 or if they miss the prayer, you can hit them. You can like beat them if they don't. So when I turned 7, that's when it got really strict for me. I had to start fasting. Fasting was really hard for me, and I do remember, I was so hungry that I remember sneaking candy because I was just a kid. But I remember crying afterwards and thinking I was going to go to hell or be punished, or I felt like the sin was so heavy my parents could see it on me when I went walk by them. It was just like I grew up with a lot of shame and guilt, and they really broke my confidence down, which is why I think I made so many bad choices as a woman, just not knowing. I had no dating experience, and so a lot of weird things happened after. But finally, like when I became Christian, we'll get to that part. I finally felt like I had an actual dad, like an actual father through Jesus. Like I felt like, okay, somebody has my back. So that's what got me through it because my story is tough. But that's where my smile, I promise this smile and this inner happiness that I have, I'm going to tell you the experience, but it was after like I met Jesus. And then I was like, how can I be sad again? I still get sad, but more often than not, I feel good. And it's from Jesus. Because looking around at my life and how things have been, someone like me would not be smiling. But I found Jesus though. I just wish everybody could had this, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I told you I'm long-winded.
No, no,
So
no.
every Friday,
So we're talking about rituals in this compound. I want you to describe that life. Now I am getting a sense of the horrors of control, the horrors of guilt and shaming, which is all the result of Islam and that sheikh trying to um, have as much control over your guys' life as anything because it benefits him tremendously. So now
oh,
you told me about your fasting during Ramadan, even though at age 7, being a child, still because of all the fear and everything else you're doing it. Tell me about the prayers. Tell me about the gatherings, the sermons, and all that.
okay, so my parents instilled in me, and thank you for keeping me on track with this. But my parents instilled in me that if I missed a prayer, you know, the 5 prayers, that I was going to go to hell. So I don't think I've ever missed a prayer for my whole, I think it's like I was Muslim for 29 years. No matter what I was doing, I would stop to pray because I didn't want to go to hell for eternity. Every Friday we would gather together for the prayers and because you can pray at home, but we would gather at the mosque, which was really a trailer. It wasn't really an established mosque. By the way, the Muslims of America, that's the name of the cult, but they also call themselves al fuqara, which means the poor. And the establishment was everybody was super poor. Like it was like if you did get money, you give it to the sheikh. And I just remember growing up not having anything. So every Friday we would get together and pray, but it was always, well, also Friday was a little bit lighter than Thursday night. Thursday nights always scared me because you know about the halakha. I don't know how to say it.
Explain
Do
it
you
to
know
us,
what that
please.
is?
Yes, please explain it to us.
Okay. Okay, it's the Thursday night gathering where we all sit in. The men have their side of, I guess, the mosque, and the women have their side of the mosque, and we all sit in a circle. We turn the lights down dark. We light candles. Weird, and gosh, what would we recite? We would recite, you know, about the 99 names of Allah.
Yes.
So, and some of those names have, yeah, yeah, and so that's what we would do. But it would, and some of those names have like terrifying meanings. And I saw your video about that too. But we would sit in the circle, and am I allowed to like imitate? Because we would like blow. We
Please,
would start off
just
like,
let it out. Let it to the world to see
okay,
what's it come from
I
and
am
what
very
Islam produces. Please.
okay. Yeah, I am very animated. Like I don't mind telling the story, but I want to try to be professional. So we would, because Allah's name, we called him like Allahu. So we would start off with like you have to say the who from your chest. You know, if you speak
Yes.
Arabic, there's two
Mhm.
different ha's in the alphabet. So it's like say the hard ha, like who. So we would start off, and the women we would have our veils, and even the men would wear veils for this, the kifaya, so you could have like your head covered. I don't know how it never caught on fire because it was all this fabric and candles and we're in the dark and it was weird. But we would start off like Allahu, but you had to say like who and turn your head like this. And it was just like who, and I would get like dizzy and lightheaded. But so we would start off sitting down, but the louder it got, saying like Allahu and the 99 names, people would stand up and have these fits. And they're like, Allah, and people were shaking. And it used to scare the hell out of me. I'm sorry, I do curse. I'm gonna try not to swear, but it used to scare the heck out of me. But and then the faster your head turns, it's like you feel this energy, and it wasn't positive energy. It was scary, and so we would do that for I don't know. It was supposed to be for a half an hour. It always went over. So that was like Thursday night, and on Friday the prayer was a little more relaxed. It was just a little more relaxed because it was daytime. So the Friday prayers weren't scary to me. And it was mostly like, it wasn't even really, it was mostly about the sheikh. Like the sheikh, honestly, we worshiped him. like he was saying, it was Islam and whatever. Islam is already super negative, just if you read the Quran. But the way we practiced it, we actually worshiped him. So we would have the Friday prayer and sit down and listen to the imam, like the leader, because each location has their own leader, but each location taught the teachings of Sheikh Jamani. So we would just talk about him and how he is a perfect man and, follow his teachings to the point where one of my sisters went to Pakistan. People used to fly over and like study with him and come back. So one of my sisters went to Pakistan and her name was Rafia. Her name is Nancy, but we called her Rafia. But the sheikh was like in his 70s, so he accidentally called her Jamila instead of Rafia. And so he was like, Jamila, I need you to do something. And then everyone looked up and they're like, oh my God, her name is Jamila now because he's the sheikh. He doesn't make mistakes. So if he said that, it was like God changing her name, basically. So that's how my sister Rafia became Jamila. So he did that. And the Friday worship, what did we do? It was less intense than Thursday night, but we would just sit around and we would talk about him and what can we do to serve him. Even if I ever mentioned school, like when I grow up, I wanted to be a writer. And I remember my mom was like, well, if you become a writer, you have to write things for Sheikh Jelani. Like if he needs a writer because he's trying to establish a newspaper. So it was never about me. And then I always liked makeup, so I wanted to be a makeup artist. But of course, makeup is haram, is forbidden. And so I remember telling my mom, like, I wonder if I'll ever become a makeup artist. And she was like, a makeup artist, like that's Sheikh Jelani does not need makeup artists, and that's something you can never do. Which, by the way, in 2016, I did become a makeup artist. I went to Los Angeles and graduated, so I was happy to get that off my list. But there was a lot of public humiliation because I told you the TV thing was on and off. Sometimes you can watch a movie if it's edited, sometimes not. So I guess a family was found with movies in their house. So somebody reported it to the sheikh in Pakistan. So he was like, okay, everyone on the property in Michigan has to get beaten. Everyone from the age 14 and up. Thank God I was 13. Okay. So everyone had to take turns and the men were separate from the women, but you had to have sit on a chair, like sit on the chair backwards and hold on to the chair like that. So they can give you 50 strikes with like bamboo. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been like accidentally hit with bamboo, but it really hurts.
It really.
So yeah, bamboo is like it's different from any other stick. It really stings. So we all had to get these like 50 strikes for watching TV, for watching movies. And I could give the lashes like I could hit the person, but they were like, okay, she's only 13. When she turns 14, then she can get her TV punishment and all that. People were getting punished every day. They were like, oh, we found if they found like adult content or something on it was usually the men. If it was found, one of their wives found it on their phones, there would be public, and I'm not saying that it's a normal or a good thing to have that, but to be tied to a chair and beaten in front of everyone, who gives you the right to do that? Like, just weird cult stuff. But about movies and about really anything, if you were found, if you listen to music, like American music, you can get punished for that. If you were found at a place where it wasn't approved of, if you went to a restaurant that wasn't approved of, if ever, I don't think anyone drank alcohol or anything like that. Oh, one guy did smoke, so he got beaten for smoking, but it was just like they were in your life. We got beat for having short jackets because the Muslims wear long clothes, so they wanted us to wear the long clothes and the long jackets on top. So if you were found with a short jacket like that comes up to your waist, then you get beat for that. Everything was like a beating or a punishment or
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
So
So
tell me about the community itself. How many
oh,
people lived in your community in Michigan, and then usually from what race? Was it multi-race or because these
no,
people? Hmm.
oh no, it wasn't most. Everyone was African American mostly. It was a black community. And when the guys would sneak off, because the guys were allowed to go to college, the guys would sneak off and go to strip clubs. And so they would bring in, the only reason why the race blended is because they would bring home strippers. How weird is that? And they usually had kids by them and all that. It was really weird community because the guys were allowed to do crazy things. And then they would tell like the lady, the dancer, and I know this is probably throwing people off, but they would tell the dancer, like, if you want to be with me, you have to become Muslim. You have to be in the community. So we had, if anyone was a different race, it was because they kind of brought them in, like the guys brought them in. It was super weird. So we had like a lot of little mixed kids and like, but mostly it was black guys. Everybody was, yeah, everybody, it was just one race. My dad, I think, was only, I guess, mixed because his mom is Native American, but that's
Wow.
still, I mean, he's,
Wow.
you know,
And then what was the population, you think?
where I grew up, it seems like it was like 150, maybe 200 people on that property.
Wow.
So yeah, so I grew up, we had like a really big garden. And when the way I grew up, I thought everything was fine as a kid because I didn't know anything else. And we had like a lot of animals, sheep, chickens, and things like that, which that's why I always tell everyone I grew up as a farmer. But with the property, it came with a horse corral. We didn't have any horses, but the neighbors were Christian and they were like, if we can use your corral, you can use our horses. So the neighbors, I would sneak over there. My sisters and I would sneak and play with them because they were Christian. And I loved that they had so much freedom and that the boys and girls could play together and no one was going to go to hell for playing together. So I would sneak and play with like Jerry and Travis and then sneak back over to our property because you just climb over a fence to get over there. But I always wondered why they could just listen to music and wear nail polish and watch cartoons and it wasn't a big sin. That the Christians had so much freedom. And so I would sneak over there and play and then come back and I'm like, wow, there's nothing to do here, besides like look after the sheep. But the nail polish, I don't know if you know, maybe you do about the whole nail polish and Islam thing. So it's believed that before you pray, you have to do ablution, like wash your hands and your face and everything. So if you're wearing nail polish, that prevents the water from touching your nails. So I grew up never having worn nail polish, and it was just something that was so foreign to me. I knew I could never do that. I knew I could never wear makeup or be a makeup artist. We were allowed to wear makeup on our weddings, and there were a lot of those. So I was like the community makeup artist. So I did like all the bride's makeup. But every time I did that, it was painful for me because I knew I was never actually going to go to school for it. And I was never going to work on set for a movie or something like that, which was my dream, which I did accomplish. So I'm happy about that because that's what I wanted to do. And oh God. So my mom and dad, they were both narcissists in their own ways. So you take a narcissistic person and give them Islam, and then, Islam is already a cult in itself. And then you give them this property. I feel like they were bored or something because they just had us doing these there was like a punishment for everything. And there were so many rules. It was so controlling. You can't go. Did you say that when you were Muslim, did you say the prayer before you went in the bathroom? That super long prayer?
Everything. It is a very superstitious ways of doing those short prayers or those repetitions, those vain repetition that Christ calls it, that if you want to go to bathroom, if you leave the house, if something falls down, for every little thing, there's something because you're constantly in fear.
Yes, it was constant fear. And I remember saying, and now I joke with my daughter because we're both Christian. And she's like, well, I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, say the prayer. And we'll joke about it because the prayer I used to have to say before I went in the bathroom was so long that if you really had to pee, it's like you're trying to recite it and then you have to get in there. Then when you come out, you say this other prayer because my parents and the Muslims believe that jinns, like evil spirit jinns, would attach themselves to you if you were in the prayer. I remember, let me try to make this wholesome. Uh, I never even saw my own body growing up because we could never be, we always had to be covered. So if you take a shower, a ghusl or a ghusl, you had to have a garment, a ghusl garment is what we call them. So even in the shower, we had to wear clothes. So it's like a dress. And then my parents believe that it was the sunnah or the way of the prophet to pour the water. So even though we had a shower that worked, we would fill up water jugs and use it like that because it's like that's the religious way to do it. And I remember thinking this is so extra. And I was so brainwashed that I never actually just turned the shower on. It was like, no, wear this garment, use a water jug and pour it over you. Just extreme, just extreme. So,
What word ghusl is the word baptism in Islam, that ritual washing or ablution that you
yeah,
constantly, because you're feeling you're defiled, or you're feeling that some unclean element has
yeah,
gotten on me or in my spirit. You go and wash yourself in a ritual way to just get rid of that. I have done it thousands of times. Every Muslim does it, and
yeah.
different situation. You go to bathroom, or um, after marital relationship. So many things you have to constantly
Oh, yeah.
baptize yourself, wash yourself because of all this thing. If God forbid you, if there is poo or pee or blood or any unclean elements, if I shake a hand of a Christian as a Muslim or any of that, you just need to go wash yourself in a ceremonial way, because you're trying to get rid of the defilement, that uncleanness that
Yeah.
has been transferred to you now.
Yeah, and it was so extreme that we had a washing machine. We didn't have a dryer. I remember hanging the clothes on the line. But one day our washing machine it broke, and it was like broken for a few months. So we would go to Snyder's laundromat. I remember in Coldwater. We would go wash our clothes, and my mom would say, "Don't put the clothes on because we don't put them on until she would call it treat, until I treat them. I give them Islamic treatment so that you don't get like that the bad vibes or the filth from the non-Muslims." So she had this water bottle, a spray bottle that she would recite Quran over, and she would blow it into the bottle. So we would lay all of our laundry out after it was washed and dried, and she would spray it and say, "Okay, now your clothes are pure." I'm sorry, I laugh because this is crazy. But she would spray it with the water, and yeah, it was like, okay, now you can wear these clothes. But I just remember being so uncomfortable because do you remember just stretching out, stretching your legs? And did your parents ever say like your feet are pointing towards the Kaaba, the direction of the Kaaba? Did that happen to you? I
Yes,
could
of
not
course.
be
Yeah.
comfortable. Yeah, so we would do that. You stretch, and it's like, no, don't go that way. I remember leaning on my mom after something really terrible happened to me in the community, and I remember leaning on her just for comfort. And I remember she was like, "Sit up, because you're going to fall asleep. You're going to break your wudu." Do you remember that? Like if you if you fall asleep, you break the ablution that you made before prayer. So it's like, don't fall asleep. They made it as if you can't talk to God without having you have to do ablution and you have to sit up straight. It was like God was so foreign. And I remember
No, God would not hear you or would not accept you if you haven't gone through the rituals. You have to be covered up. All your hairs is covered up. All your body is covered up, and then you have to wash your washings, and all of that needs to be done in order to get God. And then when you do your prayers, there is nobody on the other side. There is
yeah,
no response. There is no comfort. There is no answers. It is total ritualistic, throwing something out into the air and hoping to stick.
that's what I never understood, why my prayers were never answered, because things would happen, excuse me, in that community. And I was like, why is God not answering my prayers? And it was always the God of the Quran was always angry at something. And it's like, if you do that, then, I remember looking at Lucky Charms when it was like new. That's how old I am. And my parents, or I think I did, I was like, Mom, can I try those or something? And she was like, no, they have marshmallows, and the marshmallows have gelatin, and gelatin can come from pig. And it was just like everything was so forbidden with my pregnancy. When I had two kids with my ex-husband from that community, there were no doctor's visits. There were no, I couldn't take prenatals. The only reason why I'm healthy now is God's mercy, because I couldn't, and I'm anemic, so I have to have iron. But I remember my ex-husband saying, like, we don't know what's in those prenatals, and we don't know if the gelatin came from plant or if it came from pig. So do you want pork in your system? And so I was just like, I had very hard pregnancies. I don't know why. I mean, I just had a checkup. I don't know why I'm healthy besides God's grace, because I mean, yeah, it was a lot. But in that community, I was sick all the time. I remember being like really fatigued. And even when I would stand up after I had the kids, I remember I had to hold on to something to stand up. Like I was just weak and sad. And then I became Christian. I got my bounce back. I don't know. I don't hold on to anything to stand up. It's like my legs started working. Everything started.
The control, the pressure, the depression, the oppression, the demonic powers that are ruling your life as a Muslim. You have no power over sin. You have no power over the demonic forces. When you go through these ceremonies that you're explaining, the who's and the chantings and this ritual that you're trying to channel the powers of the spiritual darkness, you're opening yourself up to all sorts of
Yeah.
problems. Satan does
Yeah.
not come on but to steal, kill, and destroy. And then I describe it, sister, when I was reading Psalm 23. It's David says describes his life separated from God, or when we're in utter rebellion toward God. He calls it the valley of the shadow of death. Now I haven't been in exact situation you have been in, but as Shia Muslims, we when man gathered and we go through those ceremonies of self-flagellations, the room was completely dark. Somebody would chant the name of Hussein or Hassan or Ali or what, and you start beating yourself, and then there is a thick presence of an evil thing in those ceremonies. I remember it was like a mist of demonic power that I call it the valley of the shadow. Because when I read Psalm 23, I realized that's the exact place I was. But it is the mercy of God, it is the grace of God that carries us through, even though at those moments we have no understanding of who God is, or we have opened up ourselves to all sorts of demonic things. But God is so merciful that we walk through that valley and He gets us through. And on the other side, we find Christ. So when you were in those ceremonies of bouncing your head and trying to channel this,
Yeah.
that's the valley of the shadow of death. And you see everybody's wearing dark, and there's
Yeah.
very little light in there, and then they would light up the candles because they're burning essence and all that.
So demonic. It was so demonic. I didn't see it like that until I left. But
It is.
I was wondering.
Islam is one demonic religion.
It absolutely is. And when we would be in the halakha of our Thursday night, I was wondering that if this was a good thing, why were the people freaking out and just having these full blown tremors? And just like, I remember one girl, one of my friends, she was so embarrassed because her mom she could not knock it off. Even at the ceremony, even after the ceremony was finished, her mom was just like shaking, and for the people who acted out the most, it was like, okay, they're the closest to God because God is like moving through them. So that was like the interpretation.
Satan was moving through them, acting.
100%. Because God doesn't make you tremor and shake and throw up and scream. Like, come on. So we had these every Thursday night. That was like our purification to get ready for Friday. And then like for the following week, it was crazy. But the Sheikh also had us living in fear because he said that let me see, how can I say this with a straight face? So he said that I'm sorry, give me a minute. He said there was a big demon floating over our village, right? And he goes, this demon is going to give you, I've always had shortness of breath. I don't know why. He said the symptoms that you'll get if you're attacked by the demon, you'll know because you'll have shortness of breath. Um, your hair will itch and something else. He said like a few things, but he said there's a demon circling your, because of your sins, there's a demon circled over the property, which we called Myanmar. He named the Michigan property Myanmar. So I immediately thought, oh my gosh. And I was like 16. I was like, I'm possessed because I have shortness of breath. Even in my laugh, you'll hear I'm like, so I don't know what's up with that. So I immediately thought that I was possessed. So the sheikh told everybody the cure, if you don't want that demon, if you don't want that demon to bother you, is pay a higher percentage of your paycheck, because that is going to purify your money and is going to give him the ability to cure you. Even though he was in Pakistan and we were in America, he could send like spiritual waves to, but you have to pay up.
Oh, so you
I'm
pay,
sorry.
so you pay 30%,
Yeah,
40%, 50%, and he sends the wave. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Did
And
you
he
tell
was
him
like,
that you are the demon that flying over our lives? Shaykh,
100%.
Shaykh
But you
Mehmet.
know what? What's the word for charity? He said that will be your charity. Sadaqah. Sadaqah.
Adaga.
He's like that. Yeah. So he's like, that will be your sadaqah. And he's like, oh my gosh, he's talking. And we would talk to him. Like it started off with VHS, then it was DVDs, and then he would Skype everybody. And we would gather around and watch him from all the properties. We would join in and watch him live. And he was talking crazy, right? He was talking. I have a picture of it. I have a picture of it in my phone. But he was like I have a picture of all of us gathered with him like on the screen. But as he was talking, he was like, you have to pay your percentage. You have to start sending more sadaqah. And he's like, oh Allah, I see it now. I see it over your land. I see it. I'm sorry. I do laugh a lot. But yeah, he was freaking out and saying, like, I see this big monster. You guys have to, you have to start paying up.
That
But
is
I remember being
awesome.
fearless.
Please send me the
So
picture for sure. I'm gonna share
okay.
with the world here.
Okay, yeah, I have a few. I have a few that I can send, and I get a lot of pictures also from my friend. He's a journalist, Ryan Morrow, and he specializes in Islamic cults in America. But he specifically he doesn't understand why this cult hasn't been shut down. Like he doesn't understand why. So I get a lot of pictures from him because when I left, I was like, I'm never looking back. I destroyed my pictures. But he's a journalist, so he finds them, and I'm like, oh my God, that's still happening. So but I was going to say something about being in fear constantly. Oh, I didn't know that the Sheikh was into magic and witchcraft. Like I thought that was, I just had no idea. The only time I got a clue about it is the Sheikh made a DVD. I forget what it's called because he labels each one. It's like, watch this one before you watch part two, and it purifies you. And he's like, if you fall asleep watching it, it's because the information is so heavy. I forgot. He used to say something like, if you fall asleep watching my DVD, the information is too heavy. You're not ready for it yet, and that means you need to like basically probably up your pay, but you need to be a better Muslim kind of thing. So he had this DVD. I hope you guys are ready for this. On the DVD, he has these people at his house, like the Black American Muslims would go visit him to get personal training. So he has like some of the brothers, they call them, from our community. He has them demonstrate in a dark room. He says, he says, people are doing black magic in this world, and these are the things you need to stay away from. Okay. So he has the guy on the video. He's in a dark room with candles where you can see like his shadow is on the wall. The Sheikh is narrating, and this DVD still exists. I just don't know the name of it. Ryan might know for people who want to see this stupidness. So there's candles, and you see the guy's shadow on the wall, and the guy's like praying or something like that. And well, Muslims, I don't think pray like this. We used to pray like with our hands like this. So the sheikh is narrating. He goes, yeah, yeah, something like that, right? So the sheikh is narrating, and he's like, do you know that your shadow is a separate entity from yourself? And he goes, if you speak these, and he says some magical words, he goes, if you speak that to your shadow, you can send it to like movie producers and music artists. And he's like, people who have a lot of money. And if you start, he was like, you can something, I don't know, but he's like, if you send your shadow there, somehow you can get money and then your shadow comes back. But he goes, but this is not the way of the believers. On the DVD, he's saying like the magic words, he's giving you the technique of how to do it. So I honestly, when I was watching it, I was thinking, why is he saying these words and why is he teaching people how to do this if he doesn't want it done? But it was something about like your shadow as a separate entity, just some dark magic stuff. And he basically taught the technique of how to send some evil spirit to this person who has money, and it can like increase your wealth or something weird like that.
Yeah, good luck doing that stuff, and it's gonna work. Hear me now.
It
Um,
was weird.
your stories, sister, your story is like phenomenal. Like I don't know if you understand how important your story is, and how many people are caught into these things outside of Christ, outside of Christianity, and they're in absolute bondage. Well, we'll get your story out there, and it is totally fascinating to me what you have gone through. And of course, it wasn't your choice because of your family. You,
Yeah.
you're born into this situation, but thank God you're out of it. Um, one other question I have, because now I'm getting familiarized with the situation, with the compound, with the type of people that are there, the population practices. Usually in this type of cults, the cult leader, like the self-diagnosed prophet of Islam, he was a womanizer. They love women. It's always a male, and they're all. If you look at Joseph Smith, womanizer. These people are usually Jim Jones, womanizer. These people. Did you guys notice anything about him, that he practiced polygamy or he was a womanizer?
The Sheikh Jelani.
Hmm.
So he had three wives. The first one he married when she was 12, before I was born. He married, her name was Fatima. He married her when she was 12. The second one he married, I think she was 17, Zainab, at the time when they got married. The third one he married, I think about 19 because I was 3 years older than her. I was about 19 when he married the third wife. She was actually a friend of mine in America. She was 16 and he was almost 80 when this happened. It was really creepy. And I think they had like two sons together too. So God knows how that happened. But yeah, two kids. And I was so brainwashed at 19 that I thought it was like when they said that it's like an honorable thing and they were like, she's going to bring so much honor to her family. I was like, oh my goodness, she was so honored to marry this 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
Um, yes, just super weird.
Yeah, they twist. Religion is something superficial and twists everything in your brain, that even though your conscience that God has given us is telling you this is not right, or this, but you just shut it down. You just callous
Yeah.
yourself toward that and believe whatever it is. It's a very twisted thing. It really is.
And if you don't shut it down yourself, someone else will. Because I always had a calling. I always had a not a calling. I always felt a closeness to Jesus. You know, we call him Isa in Islam. So his stories were always so beautiful, like that turn the other cheek and just the way he helped the poor, just everything. And so I remember I was so little and I told my mom, I don't even know why I ever brought anything to my mom's attention because she was so cold. And she always shut me down. But she was my mom. So I went to her and I read a story about Jesus. Um, I don't even know where I heard the story. But yeah, and I said, can we have favorites? Like, because in Islam, Jesus was a prophet. And so was Muhammad a prophet. I don't know what Muhammad was, he had issues. But I was like, if I had to have a favorite, I was like, I would pick Isa, meaning Jesus. And she was like, you never say that again. Like, never choose Jesus over Muhammad. And she said something really derogatory about Jesus, which was weird to me because he was one of our prophets, you know. But it was she basically said like he's not worth like the dust under Muhammad's shoe or something horrible. Like, God forgive me, I'm just relating the story. But so I was like, okay, wow. I don't know. I was like, okay, I can never say that again. But the cool thing is we didn't have a Bible, but because we were homeschooled, my mom would sometimes take us to the library so we could use the computers for our homework. And so I would get finished with my homework, and my sisters were still doing theirs. So I would just kind of walk around the library. But there was a Bible there, like a kid's Bible, and it had like the story of Jesus and a miraculous story. I should know this stuff by now, but how he turned, like he increased the food, everybody needed food, and he had like faith and just the whole water into wine and just everything, all the stories. And I really liked him because as a kid, or just as a person, and this isn't my ego talking, I've always been super nice. I always liked people. Like I've always been super sweet. And Jesus, in his stories, he was super sweet. And I was like, I just want to be like him. He was so understanding and fair, and he didn't judge like he would, he didn't judge people. And growing up as Muslim, we judged everybody, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to walk down the street and say hello without thinking that one's going to hell, that one's wearing a short dress. That I just didn't want to think. I wanted to be like Jesus. So I would sneak and I would remember, I know it put, it was like I had a special spot in the library where I would make sure this book, it was like Bible stories for children or something like that. Or it was like stories from the gospel. I can't remember what it was called. So I would read it because I just felt connected to it. Even though I was Muslim, I didn't tell my sisters about it, nothing. But after I read it, I don't know, I just felt upbeat. Like, okay, I want to be like that. So even before I knew Jesus, I already wanted to be like him because he was just so loving. Yeah.
Well, of course, it's uncomparable. If you would compare Jesus with anyone, and anyone, like all the prophets, anybody, Jesus is just um, 1,000 miles ahead of you because he's God in flesh, and he's just super, super, supernaturally wonderful, and his love, his mercy, the way he acted, it's nothing like the creepy Muhammad or anybody that's out there that they claim to be prophet or sent from God, and they totally opposite of everything godly. Um, now we learn where you come from. It's past
Yeah.
45 minutes. We have established where you come from, Bella.
Go on.
So now tell us, how did you transition out of this situation? Because it is controlling, it's demanding, it is full of fear because everybody is watching, every move is watched. It's not like you have a way out. Oh guys, I'm an Amish. I'm out of here. Adios. It doesn't seem like that. So tell us what happened and how did you get yourself out of a situation?
Okay, you're right. There was no way out. And even if I wanted to sneak and drive somewhere, my mom made sure that I knew nothing about driving to the point where she's driving, then she needs to go left. If I look out the window to see if a car is coming, she would say, "Don't look, stop acting like you're driving. Keep your head straight," like crazy. So, yeah, abuse. So, I got out of it. Well, I'll say briefly, I got married. Well, the sheikh arranged my big sister. She was about 24. He arranged her marriage with a guy in his 40s who already had a wife and a ton of kids. But he arranged their marriage with them. Since my sister got married, her husband had a brother, a younger brother, and so we would always talk on the properties. Like he lived on the Tennessee property, and at this time we lived in the South Carolina property because we kind of switched wherever the sheikh wanted us to be, type of thing. So I would talk to my brother-in-law, who became my husband later. I would talk to him and say like, "Oh yeah, he was a what do they call those people who memorize Quran? And it's like you kind of have a special rank."
Are you
I think he was.
talking of the Qur'an, the people that they memorize and recite the Quran?
Yeah, he like Hafiz. He was Hafiz.
Hafiz, Hafiz.
So yeah, and I would say like, "Oh, you need to teach me Quran," and we would just have these little silly conversations on this little compound. We knew nothing else. So one day it was his birthday. His birthday is June 8th. I baked a cake for him. It was a Bob's cake, a strawberry cake. I put the icing. I remember it's because this day changed my life. It was a Wednesday, 2008. But I baked this cake for him. And I told my mom and everything. I was like, when Salim gets here, that was his name. I was like, I'm gonna give him this cake. It's his birthday. So somehow somebody saw that. Somebody knew. I think when he took it down the hill, because these compounds are, in the boondocks. So he took it down the hill, and I guess someone said, "Where'd you get that?" And he was like, "Oh, my sister-in-law made it." The council, because these compounds have like councils, they were like, "She made him a cake." Oh, that is super inappropriate. They have to get married in 24 hours. So that's how I got married. Yeah. So he was, I think, 19 and I was 21. And right?
I'm about to
Yeah.
eject my chair. Like, what?
Yeah. And
You
my
you
brain
hand
didn't even
you hand him cake, and now you have to.
as simple as that. As simple as that. But had I grown up as a normal American with a normal mindset, I would have thought that was crazy. But I was just like, okay, 24 hours it is. They had like this council. Well, I was a little weirded out because I was like, I don't have a wedding dress. I don't have, but people were like giving me like things like little donations. And I had a friend named Nisa. I wore her wedding dress. By the way, you can't wear white on your wedding because Muslims wear white on their death. So the wedding you have to wear,
Yes. Mhm.
which was super weird because all of us got married in the Pakistani dresses like lengas or saris, or I forget what it's called, but everyone wore like a Pakistani dress. So we're Black girls wearing these Pakistani dresses because that was the Sheikh's culture, which became our culture. We thought that was like what Muslims do. So nobody ever got married in a white dress. Just imagine wearing a sari with an afro. So anyway, that was our culture. It was weird, but that's what the Sheikh put together for us, and that was all we knew. So so I had 24 hours. I wore my friend's wedding dress. People baked sweets and goods and all that, and it was like, this is your wedding. Um, so I married him, and since he didn't live on that property, I ended up moving the next day with him and his parents, because I don't even think he had his license. We moved to hit their property in Tennessee, which is why my daughter was born in Tennessee. Um, we moved there and we moved right into their trailer, and their trailer was like completely condemned. Our bedroom door, it should have been condemned. Our bedroom didn't even have a door. I'm talking about extreme poverty. So we would put a sheet, not a sheet, but like a curtain that we use like a staple gun, and extreme poverty. When people hear my story, they're like, they just don't, I don't think people believe it. I
Well,
just
we're
don't think that
believing
they
you,
think.
sister. You just tell it. How
Yeah,
the people receive it, it is up to them. You tell your
yeah.
story. We overcome Satan by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony if we do not love our lives unto death. That is the truth. You just tell it. How people judge it or receive it, it's up to them. But
Yeah,
you and
sure.
I have been given the authority, we have given permission, we have given to share what God has done for us and how He has brought us out from the darkness we sometimes find ourselves in. So you got married, you bake a cake, you're married to this man now because you baked a cake. He ate your cake. Now he needs to um, find yourself in the bed with you. So now you're moving from South Carolina to Tennessee. The trailer is whacked.
Yeah, yeah. The
Maybe
trailer's wrapped.
staple curtain in between. That is your bedroom. So tell us what
Yep,
happened.
that was our bedroom. And before I moved there, it was his little sister's bedroom. The two of them, they were teenagers, so they had no idea we that he left and got married. So because it was Eid celebration, yeah, it was Eid celebration in South Carolina, and that's the reason he was even there. So when we arrived back, the little sisters were like, "What? You got married?" And they had to give their room up to us. So naturally, there was like tension between us because they're like, "This girl came and took our room." So the two little sisters were in the living room. We had that bedroom, and then the parents had their room. And this is a trailer, so this is it's
I
small.
understand. Yeah.
And eventually the back door came off because one of the teenagers, she would be really moody. She slammed it and the back door fell off. So there was a sheet up there too. When people say like, "Oh, I'm so poor, I'm so broke," I'm like, "You haven't seen poor. You have not seen poor." And people don't think this happens in America. They think this is like in Africa and it's only in like Afghanistan. And it's like, no, there are these compounds where some of them, the trailers, they didn't even have electricity, or, it was crazy. And the people that did have money gave it all to the sheikh, because the husbands did work, but they would give most of it to the sheikh because they believe it purified their money. So that's how I got off of one property to another
Purified the money out of their pockets and lives.
one.
The sheikhs actually purified their money out
Yeah,
of the pockets.
yeah. And exactly. And the sheikh, while we were living like this with curtains up and, no doors and poverty, I fainted so many times from hunger and starvation in my life story. And with us being so far away from the hospital, and then with me without having a cell phone, and then I would wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I? I crazy. Okay. So, and I think that's why I'm so grateful now. It's because I found Jesus, and no matter what, Jesus to me, even saying his name, I'm going to try not to cry. He makes me feel like I can do anything. So there's nothing, I'm not even afraid of anything anymore. Growing up when Muslims are like, oh, there's jinns and don't do this and that, I'm just not afraid of anything. It's just, I have Jesus now. So it's like, what can possibly harm me? It's like a supernatural protection,
Is
you know?
awesome. That is
But
awesome.
I love it. I love it so
Mhm.
much. But
So
yeah, so we're,
so now you're
oh.
married. You baked the cake.
Mhm.
Now you're married. Now um the Hafiz, the reciter of the Quran, was married, already had kids. Now you joined that family, correct?
No, the Hafiz brother was already married with the kids.
Oh, I see.
He married
You
my,
all
I
are
taught,
in that one mobile home or trailer.
no, we weren't all in the same one.
Oh,
I think eventually at one point we were in the same one though, later down in the story. But my sister married a man who was already married with kids, and I married the man's brother. So he didn't have any kids yet. So we were in that little busted up trailer, and you are allowed to work if your husband says you can. So when they got us married, one of the first things I asked, like on our wedding night, I was like, "So are you going to allow me to work?" Like I said it like that. And he was like, "I'm sure." He said, "If it's an environment without men or something like that." So there was a so after we moved to Tennessee, we're in the busted up trailer. I was like, "So can I apply?" I knew nothing about working. I just knew that I wanted to work. So I said, "Can I work at Cato's?" I don't know if it's still a store anymore, but they sell women's clothing. And he was like, "Okay, Cato sounds good because, there's not going to be many men there." So I applied at Cato's. The next day, he says, "I don't know. I had this really scary dream, Nabila. I don't think you should be allowed to work." So, so he's like, "Something terrible could happen if you start working." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm already shaken up." I'm like, "Okay, so I won't work." So that entire marriage, I didn't work. And we were married for, I think, 6 or 7 years before I actually left. Yeah. So when I did leave, it was because the poverty and the humiliation rituals, everything got so bad that I started writing to the council. And I was like, "Look, I passed out twice when I was pregnant. We don't have any food here. There's curtains up, like spiders are coming in." I remember there was like a spider problem in Tennessee. And I'm not like a little spider. I'm a farmer, right? I don't care. But these big spiders with these eyes were just, it was crazy. They were just coming in because the house wasn't properly, it wasn't finished. And so I was like, I was writing the council, like, "Please, I don't want to be married to him anymore. Like, all this is happening." He had a lot of strange habits that I thought were super inappropriate. And, and so I am writing a book right now. So I don't want to put everything out. I think the things that are more personal, I want people to read it. I don't think it should be like free on the internet because it's bad. Okay. So he had a couple issues that were just like, and he was really depressed too. My ex-husband, he was really depressed. He just wasn't a happy person. And he was the bedwetter. And it was like, it was just weird because it was like I had to constantly wash these things out by hand and hang them up on, it was, the whole thing was so depressing. So I wrote the council and I was like, "We can't, can I please have a divorce?" So they were like, finally, after years, finally they said, "Okay, you can have a divorce if you do a 3 month period." I forgot Ida, the 3 month period of Ida,
yes,
or
yes.
so
And
after,
not pregnant, then yeah.
yeah. So they were like, "If you're not pregnant, then you can be divorced, but you have to go to you'll have to remarry someone else in the community," kind of thing. And so I was still Muslim with all that. So I had a son and a daughter by him. And I took a bus. Somebody suggested it because I never even thought about a bus ever. I took a bus to Texas. So when we split, he was like, You can take my daughter, but you're not taking my son anywhere." It was just a whole thing, right? So, and my kids they stay the same age for a month. So I had them very close together. So he kept my son and I took my daughter. But the sons, I remember I remember I still felt hopeful because the men were allowed to work and go to school and the men didn't have any rules. So I was like, "Okay, if I take my daughter, we'll have freedom, but my son, he'll have freedom too, if he stays because he won't be, just pray that he becomes Christian, okay, when he's big enough." But that's a whole other story. So when I fled, I went to Texas because one of my big sisters was married and she lived on the compound in Texas. So I was like, "Okay, this is a new beginning for me." I'm on the bus. And I remember like praying on the bus. And I was like, "I'm going to learn how to work. I'm going to have a job." My sister was going through a divorce as well. So I was like, "Okay, we're both going to be single and we're going to learn how to work. And we're going to be like these two Muslim women that work." This is what I thought. Long story short, I was still very programmed and I thought I was still very attached to my parents. And so they wanted me to get married again. So there would just be less shame in the family. The whole divorce thing was so shameful. So I was like, "I'm going to work and I'm going to find myself a good husband. My parents are going to be proud. And that was kind of where the plan ended." So 2 months later, I married a stranger, a Muslim man. 2 months after this divorce. no brain, no brain. And I met him because there was a Muslim marriage website. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was really a bootleg. And it was like, find Muslims in your area. I'm sorry. I have to laugh. So I found this
So the
so I was
website was find Muslims in your area.
yeah,
The subtitle
yeah.
probably was ruin your life once again. Help
Once
find
again,
Sharia Muslims.
100%. So I was a Sunni
I
Muslim.
mean, I'm about to eject my chair again.
Is crazy. And I think that's why Jesus had to give me the gift of like laughter and lightheartedness because this story is actually really heavy. So I felt in my empty head that I had to get married again because there was way too much shame going on in the community. So I found that website and you were you Shiite when you before you became Christian? Was that okay? Well, we were Sunni. And then I found a Salafi Muslim, which is super scary, right? And so yeah, I didn't know this man. So I was in Texas staying with my sister. I think I was at my niece's house at the time. And he was like, yeah, he came there, he came to the house and he was like, I'm looking for a wife too. And like, basically, we need to find it. And this is our first conversation. He's like, we need to find a mosque with a sheikh or an imam who's going to get us married because he's like, you have a daughter, I have a daughter. We need to unite because So that he
Yeah,
actually lives.
perfect match, honey. You got a
Yeah.
daughter? I got a daughter. You Muslim? I'm Muslim. This is the sign Allah has put us together. Let's go to the Sheikh and ruin everything once again.
Once again, okay, I didn't even, I mean, the paint was still wet from me leaving that first community. And then here I am joining a Salafi community, which was super scary because they actually wear all black. We could wear colors in as Sunnis, but they wear the black gloves, the face is covered, and you can basically just see the eyes. And so his home was actually in Baltimore. So I don't know if he was in Texas visiting or if he flew from Baltimore. I had a lot of trauma, so some things I just blank out. I just don't remember how he got there. But he was after he was in Texas and we got in the car and drove to we were in Houston. I don't remember Austin. I guess we went to like Austin, Texas. It was a long drive. None of the mosques wanted to get us married because a lot of them don't do that anymore. They said it's like the government was getting upset at all these random marriages and stuff. So they were like trying not to do that anymore. So the nearest mosque, I think, was 2 hours away. We got married as strangers. And then I went back to my niece's house or my sister's house. And he was like, okay, I'm going to fly you out to Baltimore in a few weeks and then we'll start a new life. Simple as that. Like it was as simple as that. I got there. Um,
So you literally met the man on a Find Muslim website with that subtitle, and then here you're looking for a mosque to get married, and then I'm gonna fly to Baltimore
yep.
to start my happy life with the Salafi Muslim, because
Yep.
this version of Islam was not as radical yet for you. Now let me get it even deeper.
Really? See, I just didn't think at all. I was really, what's the word, indoctrinated, or I feel like a whole other human. Like when I tell the story, I can't imagine myself making that kind of decision again. Like, I just don't, So we flew a few weeks later, I flew out, my daughter and I flew out and met his daughter. They were little, really little. And I thought I was just gonna have this Muslim husband and start our lives. And before we got married in the mosque, we called my father and I was telling him, I was so excited. I was like, I found someone who wants to marry me. And so I was like, he wants to marry me and I just want your permission. And so the guy got on my phone. The guy got on the phone with my dad. And my dad is, this is what my dad said to him. He was like, well, you can marry my daughter, but did she tell you that she has two kids? Like he was saying it like I was this bad person. And he was like, she's already been married. She has two kids. And I could hear my dad saying it. And it was just like, I was like some piece of trash. Like, are you sure you want to do this? And the guy was like, well, I was divorced too, and I have a daughter. So, you know, we'll make it happen. We'll make it work out. And I remember my feelings were hurt because I was like, why did he narrow me down to like, as just, I had two kids. Like I didn't have any good qualities.
The
It
guy
was
was a good salesman, huh?
not at all. It was like I was like a bad daughter or a bad mom or something. So, yeah, but long story short, that's how I married this guy. I got there. Not only was he Salafi and an extremist and wanted me to change my dress code, he was also bipolar. And I don't say that lightly. When I met his mom, she was like, how long have you known him? Like his mom felt so bad. She was like, you just marry a stranger? Like his mom, I remember looking at her face and it was just like, I cannot believe that you married him. But I didn't know how crazy he actually was. And she said, well, he's third generation. She was like, his dad was bipolar. And she's like, that's why I divorced his dad. And she was like, and his father's father was bipolar. And she said, I just want you to be careful. I know that's my son, but he will flip on you. And so she was like, if you have any family or anything, you need to keep in touch with them. And I was just like, that's kind of scary. So I met his mom. I think that was like 3 days after I moved to Baltimore. And when she said that, I was kind of scared because I knew my family didn't care about me, and if something happened, I didn't know what I was going to do. So things got bad immediately. I was married to him for 2 months. 2 months. I got married 2 months after the first husband, and then I was married to him for 2 months when out of a fit of rage for I don't really know because this is so traumatizing. I really don't know what he was mad about. But he called me and he was an hour away and he was like, I'm an hour away. This is how I remember it. And he was like, I want you to get your daughter and get your things out of my house. And I don't remember what happened, but I was like, where am I supposed to go? It turns out I called my sister, the one who we were I married her brother-in-law. I called my sister, who was a crazy narcissist too. She's a whole other story. I called her and I was like, sis, I don't know what to do. He's on his way home. He's an hour away. I don't have any money. And she was like, oh, Ibrahim lives there. And Ibrahim was my brother-in-law. He was my husband's brother, you know? And so she was like, Ibrahim lives in Baltimore. She's like, I don't know how big Baltimore is, but find a way to get in touch with. She said, I have Ibrahim's number. And if you can maybe make it to Ibrahim's house, then you'll be okay. And that was the one time in my life where she actually helped me. And so I got Ibrahim's number. And oh, before I called her, I called the police and two officers came over and I was like, the guy is crazy. I don't know what he's going to do when he gets here. I don't have any money. So the cops were, they got another call when they were at my house and they were like, I'm so sorry, man, but we have to go. It was like a murder or something crazy. So the cops just left me and I was just like at the house. That's when I called my sister. I get Ibrahim's number. Ibrahim says, okay, I'm actually down the street from you. So get in a taxi. And when you get here, I'll pay for the taxi. I'd never been in a taxi in my life. So I had to like get the taxi number and wait outside. It was all weird for me. It was all a new experience. So I get to Ibrahim's house. He pays the taxi driver and he's like, my wife isn't here yet, but you can stay in this room. And it was like their house was nice, but there was like a room that they put a curtain out. It didn't look bad. It was like they made it like a sewing room or something, but there was no door, is what I remember. So I'm lying down. I have my daughter, and I'm like, we're gonna get through this. She's just a little kid laying with me. A few minutes later, Ibrahim comes back to where I was laying down, and I was like, hey, Ibrahim, can I help you? And he was like, said something sneaky. You're looking kind of nice. I have to laugh because I was just married to his little brother, so that wasn't creepy at all. And by the way, my daughter was sleeping right next to me, like she's a little baby. But he was being like flirtatious and weird. And so I remember like, oh, I was so scared and nervous. And I was like, Abraham, I'm kind of uncomfortable with you in here. I really need to go to sleep or whatever. So he didn't touch me or anything, but he made insinuations and it was just weird. It was super weird. So, yeah, I'll never forget that. So the next day, his wife came upstairs, or why was I upstairs? I think the shower or something was upstairs, but yeah, she came up there and she was like, how long do you think you're gonna have to be here? I was like, I'm supposed to have some money come in because, oh, the guy that I was with, the Salafi Muslim, I think he was a criminal or something. So when he would get paid, he set up his money for on my bank account, like direct deposit, because I had a bank account. that I opened in Texas. And he was like, here, I can't use my card. He didn't tell me why, but thinking back, I think he was a criminal. But he was like, so when I get paid, it's going to go there. Plus, he owed me money for like a dowry or something I was supposed to have. And I was like, well, I'm supposed to get a money like eventually, I don't know when. So when the money comes in, then I can leave your house. So she goes downstairs and I hear this big blown out argument. And she's like, I don't want this girl in my house. I completely get it because she knew her husband was a creep. And then he's like, no, I'm not even interested in her. That she was just married to my baby brother. I treat her like a sister. And I was thinking, so why were you leaning in the room last night being weird? But so they're arguing. She comes upstairs, and I promise you, this was God before I even knew who God was. My phone pinged, and it was the bank just deposited money, like a few $100s into my account. And she was like, I'm sorry, but you have to go now. She was like, you and your daughter have to go now. And I was like, it's okay. Okay, cool. We'll go. I said, I just got paid. Yeah, it was perfect timing. I called a taxi. We went to a hotel. I called my parents. I was like, I'm getting on a bus. I'm going back to South Carolina. That's where they lived at this time. They lived between Michigan and South Carolina. And I said, I'm coming back. And they were like, okay, you can come back, but we need to find you a husband right away because you're not just going to be here as a single mom with a little baby girl. But unheard of. That's not happening. So I went there. This is when this time when I left for good. So I went to my parents' house, found out I was pregnant with another baby. That's my story is so dark. So I was pregnant by the Salafi guy, which I don't even know how that happened because we didn't even like each other. But anyway, so I guess when we consummated the marriage, somehow I was pregnant, didn't know it. So when I told my mom, let me just give you how Muslims think. When I told my mom that I was pregnant because I missed that time of the month, all the signs were there. So I took the test and found out, like, oh my gosh. So I was like distraught. I was like, what am I going to do? She's like, oh my God, we need to find you a husband before you start to show. So I started showing and they still couldn't find a husband, who was like ready to take on a wife who had a daughter. Craziness. And she was like, well, let's just hope, let's just pray that your period will start and maybe you'll have a miscarriage. Let's just pray. Let's not tell anybody that you're pregnant. Literally, that was my brain. Like that was my brain when this was happening. And so I was like, okay, we'll just pray about it. But when I went back to the community, I wasn't allowed on the property. There's the compound, and then there's an area where like the Muslims that they don't live in like the city, but it's like the neighborhood. So that's where my mom's trailer was. So they were like, Bella can't come back to the land until I had like a 30-day probation where I had to I had to pray to the sheikh, not pray to Allah, but pray to the sheikh that he would forgive me for like marrying outside of the community. And what else did I do? What were my sins? Oh, I used to wear the scarf, but I started wearing jeans after I left. So they had it on paper. I think my friend Ryan has the paper. I had to promise to never wear jeans again. I had to pray to the sheikh. I had to listen to DVDs of the sheikh for an hour a day. And I had to recite the 99 names of Allah. I don't know how many times, but my mom was like my probation officer. So she would check off, okay, she watched the sheikh for half an hour and I was pregnant. She's like, all right, she watched the sheikh. She had a checklist. And when I was finished with all of my deeds that were going to wash away my sins, my mom would check off that I did all that cult stuff, right? And meanwhile, I was still expecting. So they said, okay, 30 days came up. This is before I started showing. They were like, 30 days have passed, so she can come to the land for like when they have like their events or whatever they do on that property. So I remember I was down there, but I was on the land is what they call it, the village. I was on the land and I was starting to show. And, even though I was wearing loose clothes, you could tell there was a stomach because I used to be really skinny. So when I was pregnant, it was real visible. So I remember the leader of that community, his name was Ramadan, but the sheikh changed it to Saeed. So his name is Saeed Shakir. He's still ruling that little area. Anyhow, I remember him looking at me. He was up on a porch and I was walking like down below with some other sister, that is what we called her. And he was looking and I remember him from the porch squinting and leaning in like to see if I was pregnant. And I remember him like staring at me. So after I went back to my mom's house, my mom was like, oh my gosh, Nabila, what did you do? Why did you let him see your stomach? She was like, Saeed called and said that he could tell that something was going on. He can tell you're expecting. And I was like, I don't know. I was just walking. I saw him looking at me. And she's like, no, I have to have a meeting with him. We just got you back in. And now the suspension, what's it called? What's the word? Basically, I wasn't accepted. They kicked me out again. After the 30 days went up, we're on, the 30 days were up, the probation was up. I could go visit. I was visiting the property for a few times, building myself back up like as this Muslim. And my mom was so like distraught, like, oh my God, why didn't you hide your belly? We were trying to get you, we were trying to get you married before anybody heard about this baby. It was like that was like the saddest time of my life because it was like, I cannot believe that we'd have this baby, you know? So the solution was, in order for me to come back to the property and be accepted again, we had to find an emergency husband. So we found someone that I used to call my uncle. So his name is Ismail Shahid. He kind of helped raise me, and he was like one of the uncles of the community. He already had 2 wives. He had a black wife, he had a white wife. He had a ton of kids. I don't even know how many kids this man has. They were like, okay, you can marry him. And so I was like so relieved, like, okay, finally I can marry this man. So, but it didn't happen immediately. I had to have the baby first. So I had the baby alone in the hospital because my mom was ashamed. And the story is super dark. I hope it doesn't like trigger a whole lot of people. But my family was ashamed of me, even though I was married when I got pregnant. But it was just like, there was so much shame and darkness. So when I was going into labor, I was at my mom's house and I was like, oh my God, I used to call her Umi because mom was like too Americanized. So we had to call her Umi. So I was like, Umi, I think I'm going to have this baby. Can you drive me to the hospital? And she was like, no, you can call 911. We're not doing that, like at all. Just completely cold. Yes. That's why I said my smile, it's a gift from God because my life was not, ooh. So I called 911 and they came, they got me. And I remember I had on a lot of clothes because, I had the Muslim clothes and we dressed like, I guess like Afghani, like more clothes than normal because there's American Muslims that don't wear as many, but we wore like a lot of clothes. And I remember they put me on like the stretcher and I just had so many clothes on. Anyway, I got to the hospital. I had the baby all alone, no family, no friends, no nothing. And they were like, do you know who the father is? I was like, I know who he is, but I only know his Muslim name. And I think he had like an American name that was different. So I didn't actually know his legal name. It was really messed up. So he had nothing to do with the baby. But I was scared of him anyway. So when I was in labor, not before I went into labor, I remember asking the community, do I have to keep the baby, like not an abortion? I wanted to have her alive. But I was like, can she go to like a Muslim family or something? That's where my brain was because there was so much dishonor and so it was such a disgrace, to have this baby, which I know now that it wasn't. But the community they were like, if you can't find a Muslim family, then you have to raise her on your own. Must I remind you, I wasn't allowed to work when I went back to the community. So I was like, how am I going to raise her and my little 3-year-old without any income? And my parents were very close fists. I could eat the food that they had, but they didn't give me money for things. So I had this baby in the hospital and when I went home, I think one of the aunties from the community drove me home. My mom wanted nothing to do with it. This was a disaster for her. So when I went there was a Christian community that used to give out like free diapers to people in need, free clothing and all that. And when I would, I'm not going to cry, but the lady was so nice to me and no one throughout my life was like super nice, but I think her name was Holly, the Christian lady in South Carolina. They have like a baby's charity, but she was always so nice. And I could tell she could tell I was broken because even after I had the baby, I got really skinny immediately because I was so stressed out. But she was so nice and she would give me the free diapers and she would say, can I give you a hug? She would say, I need to give you I can tell you need a tight squeeze. And she would just hug me. And one day she hugged me and I just started bawling because nobody cared about me. Nobody hugged me. It was like, oh, you're icky. You got married to somebody who wasn't one of us. I lost my friends when I went back there. my friends that were like my hardcore best friends that we just had so much fun together, and they looked at me like I was trash when I went back. So the Christian lady, I think Holly was her name. She she helped me out. And so what happened? Oh, so I went against the rules. I snuck off. I went to Walmart. Like I
Thank
said,
God for the Christians. Thank God for your Christianity and putting it into practice because people need it. Super, super important. Whatever you do for
super
Christ,
important.
super important. Just
Yeah.
keep at it. Do it. Don't get tired. Your labor in the Lord is never in vain. Even a hug, even diapers, anything you're doing, you're reaching out to some broken people out there and you're rescuing them. Please continue.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And even the hug, she looked at me and she knew I needed to be hugged. I mean, I was skin and bones, and she was just like, she was so adorable. She would always say, "You look like you need a tight squeeze." And she would just hug me. And I promised I never wanted her to let me go. I was just like, oh my gosh. So she gave me a tight squeeze. And by this time I got my license. Oh, I got my license actually when I was still married to my daughter's dad in that cult. The only reason I was allowed to get it is because he kept going in and out of jail from not paying his tickets. So they were like, okay, you got to get your license so you can help him. Seriously, the man has been to prison. I mean, not prison. The man has been to jail so many times for unpaid. So they're like, okay, you got to help him. So that's what happened. However, so I'm just going to call her Holly. So Holly was like, hey, listen, I don't want to intrude or interfere about your religious beliefs or anything, but if you need anything, you can call me. You know, if you need anything, you can call me. And I was like, well, the only thing I really need right now is a job, and I'm not allowed to work. And she was like, listen, you need to apply for a job anyway. She was like, I know your parents are saying that, but there's no way you have a new baby and you have a 3-year-old and you can't work and your parents aren't taking care of you. So she just turned a light bulb on. So I was like, I don't know what they're going to do if I start working, but I'm going to try. So I went to Walmart. I applied on the computer in the back room. I got hired. I was on my phone at my mom's house. I'm in my own room. And my mom was listening at the door, heavy narcissist. Okay. There's no privacy with my mom. She was listening when she heard me say, like, okay, yeah, I can come in on such and such day. Yeah, I'm ready to work. And she heard me say something, that proved that I was hired. And so she came in. I remember she came in like a snake. She was like, so Nabila, who was that? And I was trying to be confident. I was trying to be brave because my voice would just crush in front of her. So I was like, Umi, I couldn't even make eye contact. I was like, there's no way that I can have a 3-year-old. And I was trying to say the words of the Christian lady. I was like, there's no way for me to have a 3-year-old and a baby and not have a job. So I'm going to be working at Walmart. And like the confidence was just down. So my mom, being the witch that she is, knocked everything off of my dresser, everything that was on there. She just went crazy. She knocked everything down and was like, it's bad enough. Like, you got a divorce. You left, you have 2 kids. You went and got pregnant and you had, like, she just crushed me down. She's like, you think you're going to go to Walmart and sell alcohol and pork? Are you serious? So she destroyed my room. And at that point, I know I had to go. I had a $500 car that somebody helped me get. Um, so she destroyed my room. So I got in the car. I took my little daughter and I took my baby. I went straight to the Christian charity. And I said, Holly, you said if I needed you, then I could tell you anything. And I was crying. I said, I was like, I wanted a Christian family to adopt my daughter. I was like, I can't take care of her. I'm about to start working. And I was just telling her like where my mind was. I didn't think I could take care of both daughters. I was like, I can only take care of one. Try not to cry here. And Holly was like, well, I know a family, they couldn't have kids, a couple, they couldn't have kids because the mom was S8. Oh, is the sound still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The mom was okay. The mom was SA'd when she was a kid, so she couldn't have kids. So they had like a tragedy story. So they were looking for a daughter. And so they wanted a baby, but they particularly wanted a daughter. She was like, I have a family who can they can help you with your daughter or they can adopt her. But what about you? Do you need somewhere to live? And I was like, I do. So I ended up moving in with a really sweet Christian couple, Amanda and Philip. And they kind of they just helped me become a person. They helped me to see like, Bella, you don't have to think like that anymore, you know? But I was still Muslim. Like I still thought it was a sin. I still thought everything was a sin. Listening to music was a sin, everything. So I started working at Walmart, and I was sleeping. Oh yeah, this is when it happened. This is when it happened. I was sleeping at their house, a dark room. Both of my babies were sleeping, and this light, I'm gonna cry. This light started coming from the closet. I was Muslim. I didn't even know God yet. This light starts coming from the closet. I see the closet doors open, and you guys can believe this or not. This was God Himself. The closet doors like open like with this light, and I see this man. And I don't know what told me it was Jesus, but it was definitely Jesus. There was too much light in his face for me to see. Does he look like the paintings of Jesus? I don't know what his face looked like. It was too bright. He was beautiful. There was so much love. I don't want to cry. There was so much love coming from him, and he opened his arms. You can't really see my arms, but he opened his arms. And when he did, it was like an invitation, like he was inviting me, like, come on, like, I'm gonna give myself 2 seconds because I cry. I feel like I cry. I've had enough cries to last me a lifetime. Hmm. So it was Jesus. He never said like I am Jesus or I am the Lord or anything. I just knew it was him. And even though I didn't become Christian immediately after that, I still had so many fears. It gave me strength to leave. And I was like, I want to leave. I want to get away from this community. I want to do bigger things. It was like after he left, I got confidence. You know, after he invited me in, I was like, I don't have to live in like this little, like someone else's house. And I was like, I can go to college. I can get, I'm going to become a makeup artist. I don't know why I wanted to be a notary public. I don't know why I thought notaries were so special, but I was like, I'm going to be a notary public and I'm going to work on movies because I love movies. I was like, I'm going to be a makeup artist for movie sets. I was just thinking it was weird. It was like after Jesus kind of welcomed me and I felt so much love and I saw all that light, even after the light kind of faded, after the invitation is what I call it. I was just like, I can do anything. And that was the night when I went to bed. I actually had strep throat. And I think I got it because I was just so stressed out. But I had strep throat. And after he left, my voice, everything cleared up. Everything was just like, I have such a testimony, even though I'm stupid because I didn't even become Christian right away. I just took that light and I was like, I can do something because somebody loves me. And so that is when I decided, okay, I'm going to go to California and I'm going to recreate myself. I wanted to get as far away from the South Carolina and just all those cult people. So long story short, like with my little raggedy car, I took one daughter. I left my youngest daughter for the Christian family to raise. And I was like, when I get my money, I'm going to work for movies. So I know they probably thought I was crazy, but I really did this stuff. That'll be another testimony. But I was like, when I get my money, then I can, I'll be ready to take care of her. So I drove for 5 days to California using GPS.
Wow.
I drove there because I had a sister who had a husband there. She was still Muslim, but she wasn't part of the community. And we actually moved into her living room until I could get my own space because she only had 1 bedroom. But that's how, I had to start fresh. So I was working for the DPSS, the Department of Human Public Services. I don't know, DPSS, Public Services. I was working there. And when I say I'm working, I had no brain. So thank God that my managers were so patient with me because they would give me these files and things to organize. And I'm coming from, I only knew Islam, Muhammad, Sheikh, and chickens. That's all I knew. And so they would give me these files. I dressed up. I used to dress up and wear blazers and stuff. So I looked the part. And I've always been like friendly and stuff. So I think that's just having charisma is why they hired me because I was not educated like at all. So they hired me. And I remember my boss, his name was Brian, and I think he was from China. I think he was Chinese. And one day he sat me down and he was like, Bella, I tell you to organize things from A to Z, and you organize them from Z to A. Why are you like this? Oh, I said, Brian, I don't know. I said, I never worked before. I was like, just be patient with me. Eventually, I got better with the job, and I actually asked for a raise. And he was like,
Brian,
"A
by
raise?"
the time you learned the job, had any hair on left?
Not really. And I had the nerve that after I got pretty good at the job, I asked for a raise. And he said, Bella, no.
No, Bella, no. No raise.
Seriously.
For what?
He was like, I know. He's like, do you know how long it took to train you? Are you kidding? But you know, it worked out because everyone ended up getting a raise. Like everyone actually was getting a raise. I just didn't know. But he was like, absolutely not. Like you're hard enough to do it. But oh God. So it was at that job, the DPSS in Los Angeles, Lancaster, California. There was a lady named Stephanie. So the DPSS is mostly um who works there. There's a lot of Black people that work there, and there are like a lot of Black women, and I got along with them, but it was kind of like it was rowdy, and it was just like a lot of it wasn't very professional. So there was one lady, she was a white lady, her name was Stephanie, and she was so reserved, and just her energy was so tranquil. And I was still Muslim. I just wore the scarf and a little bun, and then eventually I took the scarf off, but I was still like, no, I'm not Christian. But I still kind of kept I was too scared to accept Jesus. I was still scared that Allah was going to get me. But Stephanie was so reserved, and she just seemed judgment free. She was like nice to everyone, but she wasn't with the rowdy crowd. Something about her, it was Jesus. It was the light of Jesus that I saw in her. And so I just went to her cubicle, me not minding my business, just leave Stephanie alone. And I was like, Stephanie, I never talked to you. I was like, you never talked to me. I said something like, what are you up to over here? I used to just talk to everyone. I don't know. And so she was like, do you have a church? We were talking, and she was like, do you have a church home? And I was like, no, I'm actually Muslim. And she was like, oh, she was like, how? Because I didn't wear the scarf or anything. And she was like, well, I know you're Muslim, but I want you to come to my church and just, hear the word of God and stuff. So I literally, but I promise you, it was God speaking through her, because I kept looking at Stephanie. She stood out from the crowd. She wasn't rowdy. But she wasn't like stuck up. She was just a nice lady. And so I was like, she's so nice. I always like really nice people. That's why I wanted to follow Jesus, because the stories about him, he's so pleasant. And so Stephanie invited me to her church, and that's when it happened. Okay, I have chills. Okay. Even though I still haven't been baptized, and there's like a lot of things I want to do just for my own soul. But I went to Stephanie's church, and they were talking to me about Jesus. I listened to the sermon. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the pastor said, but it was just the love. It was the love. I never heard the word love so many times, because the Quran was always fear, punishment, wrath, anger, adultery, and just I remember this thing about, I used to dream about it, this demon that had fiery fingers and it scratches you, and everything was so dark with the Quran. So at Stephanie's church, everything was about love. And I'm a crybaby. I just started crying, and I was like, Stephanie, I was like, I want to be completely honest. I said, I want to follow Jesus. I want to be like him, but I'm scared. And she was like, that's Satan. She was like, don't be scared to turn to God. That's literally Satan. She was like, your soul wants to. She's like, what, are you scared of like the stories about Jesus? Are you scared of what the Bible's saying? She's like, think about it. It's just programming. She's like, you're not scared. Your heart knows what it wants. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. So I became Christian there. That's when I converted. And the next day, when I went to work, I was like, you guys, I have an announcement to make. I'm such a loser. But I was like, I have an announcement. And I was like, I became Christian. I remember they were like, oh my God, that's what's up. But I still needed more. I still needed something. I became Christian, but I just wanted to know Jesus, right? And so what I think I was looking for was like a church. I don't know. I just wanted a group of people that were like me, because the people at the DPSS, I love them, but there was no like Christian behavior. I mean, if I left my purse open, somebody stole $20 from me. There would be fights in the hallway. It wasn't very Christian. So I became Christian, but I wanted that love. I wanted that whole, you know, I just wanted people to act like Christians. That's what I wanted. I wanted the Jesus thing. So I didn't end up joining Stephanie's church. I don't think I ever really joined a church. I would visit different ones. And I'm still currently looking for like a church home that is really love based. A lot of it is like not. A lot of them, I'm looking for a church that like teaches the word. because there's been
You want discipleship. So we
yeah,
choose,
that's what I want right now.
yes, we
Yeah.
choose to follow Christ. The conversion is the
Mhm.
first step into the door. Jesus said, I am the door. So by accepting him, you actually go through him to the kingdom of God. You step into the kingdom of God going through Jesus. But now you want to go deeper, and now you want to
Yeah.
follow him, and now you want to be a disciple of Christ, because a believer is different. A Christian is different than a disciple. A Christian is somebody who says, well, I accept Christ as my Lord and Savior, which is a good step. It's a first step forward. But then it's somebody that says, okay, I want to learn everything. I want to be marinated. I want to be immersed in everything God has for me. And that's your desire. And I believe with all of my heart, because God is the God of Christianity is alive and is a persuasive God. He said he leaves 99 sheep to find the one that is lost, and he has found you, and he will not let it go. He's a persuasive God. He's going to lead you. He's going to guide you to the right people, as he brought Holly, and as he Stephanie and all of these people, and highlighted them into your life. Also, he visited you in that dream. He's a persuasive God, Bella. He he is going to continue, and you are on the right path. And by the grace of God, soon you will find that mentor, you will find that community of God-loving Christians.
Yeah, I feel that. And do you know that I'm sorry if I cut you off. That just recently I said now that I'm on my feet. I mean, I still have a lot of work to do, but now that I'm like out of the toxic relationships and just different things I got myself into just really from not knowing any better. So now that I'm like getting established on my own, just my daughter and me, I was praying and I was like, Jesus, what can I do for you right now? Like, what can I do to find like a community that is like you know? And I literally heard like, you got to help people. Like you have to help others. And I am a caregiver. I work for myself. I work overnight, but now I started, I volunteer, twice a month. I volunteer for, to look after seniors who there are a lot of, I live in Indiana, and in this town, there are a lot of couples that are seniors and they don't have anyone else. So let's say the husband is sick, so the wife can't go to church. So now twice a month, I volunteer to stay and look after the husband, like for free, so the wife can go to church or vice versa kind of thing. And so it's so fulfilling. Okay. And so it's so fulfilling that I know it's what God wants me to do. Um, and so I feel like I'm
Remember,
hoping.
Bella, remember, and this is for all the Christians that are watching, God doesn't need us to work for him. He's not the God of
Yeah.
Islam. The God of Christianity doesn't need us to work for him, or it's our performing before him that is going to be pleasing to him. What he wants from us is that intimate relationship with him, that we may know him. That is the most important thing for God. That we
Yeah.
have that vibrant, real relationship with him, because he's the source of life. And when we separated from him, we have no life. It's like walking zombies. We
I
just,
remember that. Oh,
yeah,
I remember.
you and I
Brown.
can relate to it like that, because we come from a very dark Islamic background, and it is darkness. It is no life in it. It's all about fear and control and manipulation. But
I remember
the
frowning.
God of the Bible wants that relationship with us. That is the key.
Yeah.
And out of that relationship, because you're connected to the source of life now, then out of it comes life, it comes service, it comes other things. But it's not because, well, God, I'm going to do something for you to be pleasing to you. No, God is pleased with us because of because of his son, because of what Jesus has done for us. The,
Yeah.
the pleasing part has been done. The works part has been already done. The work of Christ is accepted, and when we believe in that, he puts it in our account, and as a result of it, we just want to live for him, and of course, serving others, part of it. Jesus said, I have come that not to be served, to serve. And being like him is that, to be
Yeah.
selflessly serving others, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, it's I love it. I want to do more. When I get I think in a better place, I just started working for myself. So when I get in a better place financially, I think I'll be able to do more. But it's I definitely have I haven't figured it out, but I definitely have a purpose and
Well,
it's
just
to
trust the
serve.
Lord. Just trust the Lord. Do not lean onto your understanding. Just give it to Him. Christ leads us into right places with the right people in the right timing.
Yeah,
He's always faithful. Just trust Him. Pray every day and give it to Him. And
for sure.
the best is yet to come for you. I believe that. So tell our audience, you're on YouTube, I heard. Tell us
Oh my
more.
God.
Yeah.
So I even as the reason I started YouTube is because when I finally got into my own home and I started settling in, I still had so much heaviness from things that happened. Like the memories would come up and I was like, oh God, what can I do to get rid of this? And I just felt in my bones start making YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So in making my videos, and they are a little crazy because it's my crazy stories and the way I speak. And I've been getting healing through it, just getting the word out there that this is what happened and this is where I am now. So I've been healing through telling the stories. So I hope it's not offensive to anyone because I do swear because it's authentic. Come as you are. Okay, so that's what I do.
What is the name of your YouTube channel?
It's oh my God, it's called Bella Has Not Lived a Normal Life.
The link is in the description, folks. So if
Oh
you
my
want to
God.
check out Bella has not lived a normal life channel, the link is in the description.
I can't think of another name for it. Yeah, but
Maybe not.
it's my healing journey. It's me just getting the stories off my back, because it's been a lot. So
Awesome.
you'll hear all the craziness. But thank you so much for
Well, thank you
taking
so
this
very
time out.
much for sharing your story with us. Make sure you write to
Sure.
a book and finish it and get it out
Yeah.
there. It is important,
Yeah.
it is critical. And folks, you heard it once again. What a powerful story my sister has, and it is worth sharing. Make sure you share it with the whole world. People need to see it. There are people in your life that need to hear Bella's story. So share it all over the place, and give us a thumbs up. Give write in the comments where you're watching. YouTube algorithm recognizes these things to suggest it to other people. So by you liking it and sharing it, first of all, it's love on me and this channel, but then it is get suggested to other people. So make sure you do that. Make sure you're subscribed, and remember this: as a Christian, be Christ-like, serve others, love people. It is super important. There are people that their miracles, it's in you. But until next, remember, we love you. God loves you.